I've gone through all the custody papers again. If you could just help me with the wording of my statement.
Look, Alison, I really don't have time to go through all that again.
You're my MP. You have got to help me. He says he's never going to give the kids back. That I'm crazy.
Look, I'm sorry, but we've been over all that. You really need expert psychiatric help. I can't help you.
Oh, my God.
Look, just leave her. She's as mad as a March hare. We get them all the time. You'll get used to it.
Look, I know that you're the psychiatrist, sorry, and I know that you said that the pills would work, but I actually don't feel any different.
Just give the medication another month or two and try to relax a bit. I'm sure it's not as bad as you think.
No, you don't understand. It's not me. It's him. He's driving me mad.
Yes, I know that's what you said, but I've talked to your husband, and I think it's time you faced the facts.
All women who experience domestic violence, who are mentally, physically or sexually abused by their partners, will have some mental health problems because of that abuse. For some women, this will be very severe. This may be because of a deliberate campaign of emotional abuse by their partners, including for some putting them into mental health service care. For others, the stress of living with abuse fractures their sense of reality and makes them behave in ways that can be perceived as mad. These women will present to services in a number of different ways, and it may be very difficult to understand what they want.
I know that you're the...
This can be a very uncomfortable and stressful situation for the listener, the service provider, to be in. These women are likely to be confused, afraid, and frightened of authority. They can't be expected to tell their stories in a clear and straightforward way. Their previous contacts with professionals may well have been frightening and frustrating. They may be defensive and angry because nobody's heard what they're saying and nobody's helped them escape from their situation. And while we may have trouble understanding what they're trying to say, they are all, in their own ways, asking for help.
I'm sorry, he's in appointments all afternoon.
Don't bullshit me, you bitch. I need to see my lawyer now.
If you'd just like to take a seat.
I can't take it anymore, okay? Everything's just going round and round in my head and it's so fucking confusing. I know what you're thinking. You got your perfect fucking life. Well, it's not easy to live like me, to make it through each day alive.
Security, I need you in reception right now, please.
Oh, God.
All the stories portrayed here are taken from the experiences of real women who have been driven mad or feel that they've been driven mad by the abuse they've suffered from the man that they love. Their behaviour is a combination of fear, helplessness, confusion, frustration and anger. All abusers use a range of behaviours to control their partners and therefore to have power over them. This can be physical abuse, which can be pushing and slapping, moving through the spectrum to serious injury, the use of weapons, damaging people and murdering them. Most abusers sexually abuse their partners. This is also on a spectrum from women just feeling that they can't say no to sex, to women being continuously raped, and to being forced into doing sexual acts that humiliate them and hurt them. Abusers also use a range of emotional abuse to control their partners. These include using threats and coercion. That can be threats to hurt children, threats to hurt other members of the woman's family or the woman herself, making her engage in illegal acts and then threatening to dob her into authorities, threatening to have her deported if she comes from overseas. Using intimidation is another tool. This could mean smashing things that are valuable to the woman, hurting her pets, driving too fast to frighten her. displaying weapons in the home. Using emotional abuse, telling women that they're ugly, they're stupid, they're mad, that they're bad mothers. Making women feel bad about themselves through continually telling her stories about herself and putting her down, and playing mind games with her so that she doesn't know what's real and what's not. Using isolation, isolating women from their families, from their friends, so that they have no source of information other than the abuser. Minimising, denying and blaming. This is very common. Minimising what's going on, blaming the woman for everything that's happened so that she thinks that the abuse she's suffering is her fault because of something that she hasn't done, and just denying that what's happened has happened. Using children. Men also use children continuously to abuse women. This could be threatening to hurt or murder children, threatening to take women's children away, to take custody of children, and women not getting custody of their children back, or threatening to take children overseas, or enrolling children in the abuse of their own mother. Using male privilege. Part of power and control is men making all the decisions, is using male privilege, making women do all the housework, making women do very traditional roles in the family and not allowing her to have her own opinion. Using economic abuse. Denying women, through economic abuse, control over their own money. This can be making women earn all the money in the household and also doing all the housework and doing all the childcare so that she's continually exhausted, or not letting her have any money, including even in some cases for personal products such as sanitary products and those things. And often women get punished for not being able to manage the finances on what is inadequate money. Some women start using drugs and alcohol as a way of coping with abuse. Other women are forced to use alcohol and drugs as part of the abusive strategy. All of these things combine to erode women's sense of self and make them doubt their own understandings of reality. Professionals, by not listening, by replicating power and control behaviours, and by blaming women for their own situations, make this problem worse. Let's keep following Chrissy as she meets with a lawyer who provides us with a case study in how not to listen.
Chrissy, how's Sam and the kids?
Fine.
So, to what do I owe this honour?
I want to get a protection order taken out against Sam.
You're kidding me? On what grounds?
Grounds?
What reasons do you have for wanting this protection order?
Well, he plays these mind games with me.
Mind games? That doesn't sound like Sam.
Well, he'll tell me I'm stupid and a useless mother. And I know I'm not the world's best mother, Mr. Stanley, but I'm always there for my kids and I love them.
Come on now. There's hardly grounds for a protection order.
Well, he forces me to drink and then he tells everyone I'm a drunk.
Well, Chrissy, you have had issues around alcohol before. I mean, this letter from the police here states that
He was threatening me, forcing drink down me, and I just got so scared I rang the cops. Well, when the police turned up, Sam acted all nice and claimed I had a drinking problem. And then the cops told me not to use them to sort out my little domestics.
They did. In fact, they warned you not to waste police time, and that if you did, you'd be arrested. Is that not true?
It's not like that. It's just, I get so scared. Look, aren't we told to ring the cops if someone scares us? And then when I do, I get told off.
Well, perhaps if you got help for your drink.
It's not like that. I never buy it. He makes me drink spirits, bourbon, vodka, anything that's in the house. Most of the time it just makes me sick.
For goodness sake, how would he do that?
He forces it.
Why would he do that?
So that I'll have sex with him. Be too pissed to fight him off.
You mean you fight him off? Hit him?
No, it's not like that. It's just that, well, he wants it all the time.
Well, isn't that perfectly natural?
You don't understand. He's really rough. And, well, he uses things and...
Does he hit you?
No, not exactly. But he really knows how to freak me out. And he tells everyone I'm crazy. Well,
Haven't you in fact been referred to mental health services in the past?
Look, he tells everyone I'm crazy. And they never get to hear my side of the story.
Mrs. Marshall, be honest here. The police have noted a number of occasions...
He's got to you, hasn't he? Oh, God, I just knew I should never have listened to my sister when she said you'd help.
If you just calm down. I mean, this is exactly the kind of behaviour which is...
No, you don't understand.
Chrissy's been very clear and honest about her situation. Very few women who feel that they've been driven mad could express themselves so clearly. Yet even in this situation, the lawyer's unable to hear what Chrissy's saying because he perceives her behaviour as evidence of her substance abuse and her mental health problems. This is very typical of what happens when women like Chrissy try to get help. What professionals see as the problem, the drug and alcohol abuse, the symptoms of mental illness, are not the problem. They're the coping strategies that women have developed for living in what are intolerable situations. Drink and craziness are symptoms of abuse. They're not the manifestations of a behaviour problem. And this symptomatic behaviour prevents women from getting help. We know from research that at least 257 women were unable to access refuge services because they were judged to have mental health or severe drug and alcohol problems. And women's refuges are not resourced to cope with that complex behaviour. Yet these are common side effects of being in an abusive relationship. We're talking about a significant group in need who are getting no care or the wrong kind of care. These women are very frightened of asking for help because they know that they'll be seen as the problem rather than their abusive partners. Abusive men are very good at appearing sane and sensible compared to their drugged and crazy partners. And women get onto this roundabout of help seeking, then treatment, often compulsory treatment, then back to the abuser because there's nowhere else to go. And this makes them increasingly distraught and mentally fragile. Women in this situation are quite likely to have their children removed because they're seen as the abusive bad parent. And when women lose custody, often to the abusive partner, they're very unlikely to get their children back. Could you recover your mental health in this situation? Let's look at another example of how a woman living in an abusive situation might present to the services.
Lily, would you like to tell me a little bit about what brought you here this morning?
We were drinking last night and we were so pissed, rolling around. And he gives me one good boot in the guts. And I puke all over the sofa before I hit the floor. You should have seen the look on his face, spewing. We'd only got the thing on tick last week. And he was so freaking mad. He grabs me by the hair and he forces me to look it up. I mean, the kids are saying, "Why are you doing that for, Mummy?" And Rob just tells them Mummy's looking after the new lounge suite. We both cracked up at that. Like, I'd really want to lick it clean.
Lily just tells anyone what happens. Some women will be totally unable to speak about their experiences, unable to articulate their circumstances or their feelings. Other women will have non-specific physical symptoms, which are manifestations of living with extreme stress, like heart palpitations, arrhythmia, headaches, or extreme fear responses in normal situations. One of the things that happens repeatedly for women in these situations is that the services they go to for help re-abuse and re-victimise them by not listening, not believing, by asking the wrong questions, and by making women do things that are not in their best interests because they're responding to the symptoms, the drug and alcohol abuse, the mental health problems, rather than to the woman and the abusive situation that she comes from. Do you remember Mary in the psychiatrist's office getting another round of tranquilizers? What's her real story?
He promised me a white wedding, and I was so in love with him. Thought I'd found my Prince Charming, and he was, right up until the moment that he slipped the ring on my finger, and then everything changed. If I didn't do exactly what he wanted, he would slap me round or grab me by my hair. And if he ever wanted sex and I didn't, well, he'd just rape me. He kept a loaded gun in the house, even when the kids were home, and he knew that I hated guns.
If you ever touch this fucking gun, I'll kill you. Remember that?
If we ever argued, he'd just sit there and clean it slowly.
How much longer are you gonna fucking
Once
be?
he fired it just next to my ear and burst the drum. Yeah, I haven't heard too good since then. I went to the minister of our church, and he said that if I was a better wife, then Charlie might not get so mad. It got so that he just had to look at me in a certain way and I'd start to shake. And I couldn't eat. And I had all these aches and pains from all the beatings. If I did try and tell anyone about it, he'd just deny it. He'd say I was crazy, I was making it up. Once I got as far as packing the kids off to my sister's, and he had me locked up in a psych ward. Said I was a bad mother with a crazy streak. Oh, I don't know, he must have told the doctors all kinds of stories because they never asked me what I thought. They just dragged me up. You know, maybe I should have been more pushy, but I just felt so ashamed. And I didn't want anyone to know that it was that bad. Anyway, if he said that if I said anything that I'd lose the kids. After I was able to return home, it got so that it just got to the point where I didn't know what to believe. I really thought that maybe I was going mad. Maybe he was right. And then one day he was cleaning his gun and he started pointing it at the kids and making this crazy sort of firing sound. I lost the plot and I tried to wrestle the gun off him and it went off and the neighbours called the cops and Charlie told them that I had tried to kill him. I just lost it when he said that. So they called the crisis team and they came and strapped me up and took me back to hospital. Charlie played the big man and said that he wouldn't lay a charge because I was sick. I tried to tell them then what it was like, but they just said I was delusional. Look how much he loved me. And they labelled me schizophrenic, sorry, and pumped me full of more drugs. So I got addicted. One time I rang The local refuge. But as soon as they heard that I was on psych medication, they just said they couldn't help. And that's when I tried to kill myself. Actually, you know, it was the ambulance officer that took me into hospital that finally sussed it out. She noticed all the bruises and that, and asked me why. Yeah, she was just young, that woman, but she, you know, she was the first person who believed me and told me that it wasn't my fault.
So, what can you do to prevent women being re-victimised by the service that you provide? First, don't judge women on first appearances. A lot's gone on to create the problems and the lack of coherence that you're seeing. Avoid stereotyping women, the mad woman, the alcoholic. Develop company policy about domestic violence screening and responding in a constructive way if women disclose. Create a safe space away from women's partners and children, and very specifically screen each woman for domestic violence. And remember, not all women will disclose the first time that they're asked. Believe what women say. Their stories may be horrible and unbelievable, but they're probably true. Think about your body language and your tone of voice. Are you asking questions and talking in a way that says you're open to women's stories, that you believe what they're saying, that you'll respond constructively to them? Remember, women may be very frightened that their partners will find out what they're doing. Have you created a safe space? Reassure women that what's happened is not their fault, and that the drug abuse and alcohol problems and the mental illness is a response to the abusive situation that they've been in. Don't send women back to the abuser unless she insists, and help her create a safety plan so that she can eventually leave. Let's look at a positive example of a response to a situation like this.
Just leave her. Look, she's as mad as a March hare. We get them like that sometime. You'll get used to it.
Alison, wait. It seems to me like you've been having a really tough time.
You don't know the half of it. He says I'm mad. But honestly, he's the one who's psycho. He's trying to take the kids off me, to punish me.
Punish you?
I tried to leave him, and now he's mad as hell.
Alison, has your husband been abusing you?
He says it's all in my head.
Does he frighten you?
You have no idea. I just want to get the kids away from him so that we can make some kind of life. It's safe.
I want to show you something.
This is it. This is exactly how it's been.
You have no idea how it felt to have someone finally believe me. I cried all the way home. To have someone finally listen to me and reassure me that I wasn't going mad. It was like suddenly for the first time I could look past this. I felt so alone. So ashamed. Today was like being given back my life.
Of course, just listening won't change Alison's life. But listening and believing can help her begin her journey to recovery. There are huge economic and social costs associated with not responding to these women. There's the number of women who are murdered or commit suicide, the number of children who are damaged by living in abusive situations, and more specifically, the women who go into drug and alcohol or mental health treatment, who then go back into the situations that made them ill because there's nowhere else for them to go. Currently, there are no specific services for the women whose stories we've been hearing. Refuge find it difficult to work with these women because they're not resourced and don't have the specific expertise. Drug and alcohol services rarely deal with domestic violence. Instead, they just treat the presenting symptoms. These women need help at all levels at once. They need to know their children are safe, they need to know that they're safe, and they need to know that the mental health problems that they have are associated with the abuse that they've experienced. And they need to know that they have the resilience and the strength to recover. But they can't do it alone. They need services that will support and encourage them. Our job as professionals is to help women recover and reclaim their lives. This is something that we can all do. Thank you for listening to their stories. Now, let's go out and make a difference.